सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणाम् अपेक्ष्योऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते। So Hari Om and salutations to all. We had done, I think, verse 47 last time. Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi Swatmani eva akhilam jagat ekam cha sarvam atmanam ikshate jnana chakshusha. With the eye of knowledge, this Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi, who has the vision of oneness, that person sees this whole universe as one's own self, the appearance of one's own self. Continuing that, 48. Atmaivedam jagat sarvam atmanonyanna vidyate mrido yadvadghatadini swatmanam sarvamikshate. So this is also the same chain of thought continued ahead. Atma eva idam jagat sarvam. Self alone is all this. Then atmano anyan na vidyate. There is nothing else except the self. The example given is mrudo ghatadivat yadvat. Mrudo ghatadini yadvat. So the pot, the pitcher, the cup, the saucer, they appear to be very different in size, shape, color, utility. But at the end, they are all mud. Mrido yadvat ghatadini. Swatmanam sarvamikshate. In that way, the realized person sees the self alone all around. So this example is very important here, because if we, suppose I ask you, what is the weight of this pot? Or, yeah, so let us say a pot, a simple pot is there. If I ask you what is the weight of the pot, what will you say? Let us say it's a small pot which comes in the size of your hand. What would you reply?
How many kilos? 3 kilos, whatever.
It will be the weight of its contents and the metal that it's made of.
No, it's mud pot, and let us say the mud pot is empty. It's just a mud pot, nothing inside it. Small mud pot, this much. So what could be the weight of the pot?
The weight of the mud.
So that is the answer. That is important, because weight of the pot by itself is zero. Because there is nothing called pot. Pot is only a word. If mud is removed, there is nothing called pot. So the main thing is the mud. But if I forget that mud, and if I think that the pot exists by itself, the pot is only a word. Apart from mud, the pot has no existence. So the weight of the mud actually is that 2 or 3 kilos. Pot has no weight. Pot is zero. Because it's only word. Now this example one has to think. Suppose a gold bangle is there. And if one asks what is the weight of this gold bangle? So if the weight of the gold is 10 grams, then the weight of bangle is 10 grams. But what is the weight of the bangle by itself? Bangle by itself has no weight because it is just a word. You can call it bangle, you can call it bangdi, you can call anything. That's just a word. Now this, if we apply to the world, see in pot example, mud example is very easy, because the material cause we can see very clearly, and apart from that material cause, that thing doesn't have any existence. But when we apply it to the world, we are thinking names and forms are real, and we are missing out on the gold. We are thinking the pot is real, the shape of the pot is real, we are missing out on the mud. Looking at the mud, we are asking, where is the mud? Looking at this whole universe, we are asking, where is God? God alone is all this. There is nothing else except God. God in this form you are calling as what we call a flask. God in this form you are calling a book. God in this form is human. God in this form is a phone. God alone is all this. But our vision doesn't come to that, because we get stuck with the name and form. And yes, of course, there is one difference here, is that we think that these are made up of 5 elements. But if we trace back, the 5 elements came from where? The 5 elements came from Brahman only. Brahman alone in another form is these 5 elements. And the 5 elements in their permutations and combination makes this whole world. So if the mud, just like the mud, now the mud can be used to make a pot, or you can make a cup or a pitcher or a saucer. You can mix mud with some other things and then make whatever required. But ultimately it is mud only. So in the same way, the 5 elements also came from the Lord. They are nothing but the Lord. If I see everywhere in the ocean, what is there? It is only water. I may call big wave, small wave, foam, bubble, lather, deep ocean, surface level of ocean, but it is all words. What is the reality? There is only water. So what is the reality in this world? Atma eva idam jagat sarvam. Atma alone is all this. Now problem is I am not seeing it as Atma. Problem is I am seeing it only as some name and form, because I see myself as the name and form. The challenge is there. I think I am this body, so I see everything also as bodies. If I lift myself to a higher level and I see myself as the self, Atma, then the world also appears as Atma. That's why we say in our culture, yatha drishti tatha srishti. As the vision is, so the world appears to us. Now, if my vision is at a simpler level, when we apply this, if I have a vision of oneness, like last time we discussed, we have the vision of oneness, we live with harmony, we live with love. We don't have vision of oneness, then we live with all kinds of division. So the whole world appears as though they are against me. In the same world where the great masters live in love, compassion, harmony, there are people who live with a lot of insecurity. Why? Because their mind has that vision. So what is necessary is to lift our vision. If I look at myself as a body, then I will see every other thing only as gross objects. If I lift myself to emotional level, then I will start valuing emotions of people around also. If I lift myself to intellectual level, values, ideals, goals, then the whole world will appear like that to me. That is an opportunity to achieve my values and goals. But if I lift myself to the spiritual level, then I see that entire universe is the appearance of only one Supreme Brahman. So Atma eva idam jagat sarvam. And then he says, Atmano anyan na vidyate. That is the best part. There is nothing else except Atma. Just like in the wave, there is nothing else except water. The whole mud pot is only mud. What else is there in that? No duality is there. So this whole universe is one Brahman. The entire dream world we may see in that mountain and river and lake and people and animals and everything. It is all the dreamer's mind. There is only one. Duality has no existence. This vision of oneness is the ultimate achievement of life, which is called moksha actually. to realize, no, swatmanam sarvamikshate, to see the self here is the self everywhere. That is the state of enlightenment. Enlightenment is not becoming blank or thoughtless. It is not shunya avastha. Enlightenment is to realize that there is only one infinite pure consciousness, and that alone appears everywhere. So this division of inside, outside, man, woman, gender, nationality, caste, creed, community, they all are functional divisions. They are not real. But we have made it real. Like the words, the bangle and the earring, they are only words. They are functional names to distinguish a bangle from an earring. The utility value is different. Nowadays, people said that there is no difference in that also, Swamiji. People use bangle also as earring and earring also as... That is human being, what they have done. Put such big things here in the nose. But the point is, just from utility value standpoint, we say this is bangle, this is necklace, this is a earring, and that is a anklet. It is all gold only. Where is the difference? We see differences because of our identification with one particular level. That is all. And that's why mrido yadvad ghatadini swatmanam sarvamikshate. So one who goes beyond these aspects, try to see the essence. In anything I can do that. See, that's the beautiful part. How to live this? Suppose I am seeing a flower. If I am at the body level, I will see the flower only as a flower, as a means of some good smell and some good whatever, aromatherapy, and then beautifying myself. And so I will look at a flower as an object for enhancing my physical beauty. If I go little deeper, then the same flower I can see as expression of some emotion. The rose, let us say. Then I am reminded of some occasion where I was given a rose by somebody and I felt so nice about it. If I look at it at intellectual level, then I will see the same flower as whatever the botanical name of that flower is. But if I look at spiritual level, that beyond name, form, qualities, what is that? Then I will see it is only one self. There is no difference. If I lift myself beyond body, mind, intellect, then only I can see the world also from that level. That's why yatha drishti tatha srishti. I don't know what is that saying. I may be wrong in that, but the saying says that for a one who has a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Some such saying is there. One who has a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, or every nail looks like a problem, something it is. Where one wants to fix, because one is having hammer in the hand. So in that way, what is my vision? The vision of the great master is Ishavasyam idam sarvam. One pure consciousness pervades this whole universe. And how did they realize that? Not by going outside. The beautiful aspect is by going within, I realize oneness of inside and outside, not by exploring outside. No matter how much I explore the world outside, I cannot come to this vision of oneness. I have to dive within. So going beyond name, form, qualities, actions, relationships. When one goes into the depth of one's personality, beyond all this, Nama, Rupa, Guna, Kriya, Sambandh, 5. If these 5 I learn to drop, at least in the time of meditation. Nobody is saying drop all this and go away somewhere. At the time of meditation, I drop my name, I drop my attachment to the form, Nama, Rupa, Guna. I drop all my qualities. The qualities belong to this individual. I am not this. Because they come and they go. I am the witness of this. So name, form, qualities, actions, all actions stopped. Even selfless action, good action stopped in meditation. Then what am I to do? and all relationships. At that time, I have no relationship with anybody, including this body, mind, intellect. Then what am I to do at that time? Remember, I am pure consciousness, Chaitanya Swarup Atma. That's it. Chant any verses if you like any of these Atmabodha verses, one can chant to remind oneself and to assert that I am that, I am not this. Then one will come to this, Atma eva idam jagat sarva. One will realize that there is only one absolute truth which is appearing as all this. So the way to realize this is to go within. The beautiful aspect is when I become nothing, I realize I am everything. When I drop all my identifications, I don't become a zero, I become infinite. Many people have the fear that if I drop all this, I will become nothing. And I need some identity in the world. I must, prove myself, or, people must respect me. Functional level, yes, it may be. But spiritual level, it is, one is everything actually. So why hold on to one? Think about it. What is more better? We want to limit ourselves to identification with one, or we want to experience that I am all this. What is Vedanta telling us? Even when we, in the world, what are we wanting? More money, more name, more fame, more prosperity, more enjoyment, is because I want more. I'm not satisfied with the finite. And Vedanta is saying, you are everything. Why you want more? Why you want one and why you want more? You are everything. Atma eva idam jagat sarva. With that vision of oneness, when one tries to live life, that is the goal. To come to that vision of oneness is the goal. So many things, they just drop on the way. Nama, Rupa, Guna, Kriya, Sambandh. And based on these five are our Raga, Dvesha, Ahankar, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. All these are all based on these five only. Nama, Rupa, Guna, Kriya, Sambandh. Drop all these. As I said, at least in meditation, I should drop. And while I'm out of meditation, understand it is only a role. Like an actor plays a role. While playing the role, the actor will have all this, a particular name, a particular form, particular qualities, particular relationship with the characters in that play. So Nama, Rupa, Guna, particular actions and dialogues that person has to say. So Nama, Rupa, Guna, Kriya, Sambandh. The actor will do all that. But the moment the shot is over, what will the actor do? Drop all of that five. Come back and sit quietly. He is something else. Same way here. So that is what one has to do. Now, that is this verse 48. And what was said in 48, to realize that, we said one has to go within. That aspect is explained in 49. Jivan muktastu tad vidvan purvopadhi gunan styajet Satchidananda rupatvat bhaved brahmara kitavat. So he says, Jivan muktastu tad vidvan. That person is called as a Jivan mukta. Who? Purva upadhi gunan styajet. Who has dropped attachment to all the equipments which are finite, which one was identifying earlier. Purva upadhi guna. So the body, mind, intellect, all those. So the earlier shloka we spoke about, now the definition of enlightenment is to realize that the self in me is the self everywhere. That there is only one supreme self. To realize that is called moksha. It is not zero, it is not shunya, it is not blank, it is not thoughtlessness. That was the earlier shloka. So now here, how does one realize that state of moksha or jivan mukti? Now see, this is another beautiful word to remember. Jivan mukti is only in Vedanta, not in any other aspect, whether in Dvaita or in Vishishta Dvaita or any other Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, none of them have Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti is only in Advaita Vedanta. That while living, I can realize the truth here and now, while living, not after death. What is that truth to realize? It is not an object somewhere. It is to dissolve my false identification. Purva upadhi gunan tyajet. One who has done that, that person is a Jivan Mukta. Who has dropped the attachment to body, mind, intellect. What we saw, those 5 things, no? Nama, Rupa, Guna, Kriya, Sambandh. One who has dropped attachment to all these, Purva Upadhi Gunantyaje. Why? Satchidananda Rupatvat. Because one realized my nature is Satchidanand. This is only a role, I am not this. So that deep identification that one has, that I am this body, mind, intellect, individuality, that is dropped. And the firm realization is I am the self whose nature is Satchidanand, and this whole universe also is appearance of that Satchidanand. See, Jivan Mukti is not that I am realized and all the other people are deluded. That is not Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti is not some something that I acquire specially. Jivan Mukti is to realize that I was, I am, I will be pure consciousness, and this whole universe also is the same. Like all the waves in the ocean are only water. The wave who has woken up to realize that my true nature is water, I am not born, I am not dying, I am not changing, I am the changeless water. Now when that wave looks around, everything is water only. So where is the question that I am water but others are not? So there is no such thing that I am realized and everybody else is deluded. Jivan Mukta realizes that all this is appearance of one absolute pure consciousness. So Satchidananda Rupatvat. Now how did that person become like that? So the example given here is Bhavet Brahmara Kitavat. Like the wasp becomes, the worm becomes the wasp. Kita means the worm. Brahmara means the wasp. This is called Kita Brahmara Yoga. In Atmabodha, this is Kita Brahmara Yoga, meaning this, wasp, what it does, it brings a worm and puts it in the hole, mud hole the wasp makes, and then puts the worm inside it. And every day the wasp sits at the mouth of that hole and goes on stinging the worm. And every sting that the worm receives is excruciating pain. So this wasp goes on stinging. Now, because of every sting, the pain is so much that this worm is going on thinking of the wasp. So even after some time when the wasp has gone away, this worm is only thinking about the wasp. Again the wasp comes, again it stings. So continuously thinking about the wasp, what happens to that worm? That worm becomes the wasp. You see these examples from nature. Atmabodha has so many examples from the nature. Beautiful examples these are. That how this worm, now please remember, worm and wasp are two different species altogether. They are not same. It is not the worm of the wasp that is brought in. Any worm is brought in. And that worm goes on thinking of this wasp out of fear. So when people say about the secret and all that, which they are coming out now with all this law of attraction and everything, our culture said all this long before. As you think, so you become. All those things have come much later. This wasp and the worm example, they are completely two opposite things. They're different species only. But this worm goes on thinking about the wasp out of fear, and this worm becomes the wasp. So that is called Kita Brahmara Yoga. Meaning, see, here it is not that I, the finite, have to keep thinking of infinite and now I will become infinite. That's a limitation of the example. I, the finite, when I keep contemplating on the infinite, all my attachment to the finite will go away, and I realize my true nature is Satchidananda Rupatvat. So that's a little difference in the example. And also in the worm example, the worm is thinking out of fear. Here we don't have to think out of fear. We have to think out of clarity and out of this steadiness in contemplation, that my nature is that I'm just deluding myself that I am the body, mind, intellect. So out of that clarity, one is contemplating. So those are differences in the example and in our application. But interesting thing is this, that by continuously contemplating on the self, what will happen? Purvopadi gunan tyaje. We will drop attachment to whatever I am not. Then whatever is will reveal itself by itself, because it is already infinite. No infinity can be achieved by any amount of action. So by meditation, I am not achieving anything. By meditation, I am losing what I am not, which I was holding on to so long. I am just letting go what I was not. And that's why the only method to realize the truth is drop. Whatever I am not, if I drop, what is my true self will reveal. Because the true self is infinite. It is not some finite object. So the practices are not to become something. The practices are to stop becoming. Practices are to come to being. My nature is pure consciousness. There is no becoming required. So I may do japa, I may do yajna, I may do havan, I may do any vrata, dan, upvas. Those are sadhanas to purify the mind. With such a purified mind, single pointed mind, when I say I am not the body, mind, intellect, I am pure consciousness, I am learning to drop. Drop all that I am not. Then who am I? Satchidananda Rupatva. That will reveal by itself. If you remember earlier, one example had come. The clouds, megha paye amshumaniva. So the clouds, when they move away, the sun will shine. Because the sun is already there. In the light of the sun only I am seeing the cloud. In the light of the self only I am contemplating that I am not the body, mind, intellect. But today the identification with the body, mind, intellect is so strong that I am not able to realize that actually I am the self. So the method is to negate. Neti, neti, I am not this, I am not this. So that is called Purva Upadhi Gunans Tyaje. Drop attachment to earlier upadhis. To help to drop the attachment to earlier upadhis, the other sadhanas are given to prepare oneself for this state of contemplation where I learn to drop. Because for the dropping to happen, the ego must be very thin. Thin meaning it should be very less. With a heavy ego, meaning very strong ego, means very strong body identification, it is not possible to drop. And so the earlier sadhanas are meant for reducing the ego. So in sadhanas, there are these levels. Now what we try to do many times is directly meditate Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. With a strong ego, one tries to meditate Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. And then one says after some days, nothing happens, Swami. Nothing will happen. Because the one is not ready for it. Then what should one do? Do the japa, do sadhana, do seva, reduce the ego. Simple ways to find out whether my ego is strong or whether my ego has reduced is how I think, how I take things personally. Do I take things very personally? That means ego is very strong. Do I get hurt very easily? That means ego is very strong. No, but he meant to insult me. See, the ego is less, no? Nobody will take, that person will not take it also as an insult. Nobody can insult me unless I allow them to insult me. They may tell anything they want. That is their thought process. Until I don't take it personally, I will not feel insulted. So, the example given for that humility is the blade of grass, you know. One has to become like a blade of grass. Now they are expecting this cyclone to come either tonight or tomorrow evening. It will hit Mumbai. Nisarga cyclone. In the cyclone, what will happen? Huge trees will get uprooted. But the simple blade of grass will go up and down. It will flutter and it will still remain. That example is given to say that when there is humility in one's life, one doesn't feel hurt. One doesn't take it personally. One will evaluate for its functional comment that if there is some truth in that, I can learn and I can improve. Otherwise, ignore it. No, but how could he say this to me? That means I am still stuck with this small I. If I want realization, I have to learn to let go of that. That's what we learn. Nama, Rupa, Guna, Kriya, Sambandh. That I have to let go. Suppose you say, no, from Vyavahar standpoint, at least I have to do. Vyavahar standpoint, if you have to tell something to that person, you will tell. But not affected from inside. That's a very different thing. Like how we play with children. For sake of Vyavahar, we may play snake and ladder and Ludo and Carom and all that we may play. But does one feel personally elated that I won today snakes and ladders? Or I lost today? There is no question of rejoicing or feeling depressed because it doesn't matter at all. One has reasoned much about it. So if this is the goal, Purva Upadhi Gunan Tyajet, then the ego has to become very less. No, but what if they take me for granted? If I do my duty, that's all I can do. I don't have to worry about who is doing and how much they are doing and how much they are taking me for granted, not taking me for granted. My life will go in that then. In figuring out how each one is treating me. And what is Vedanta saying? This entity itself is false. So it depends on where am I putting my energy. One who has understood Vedanta properly says this is enough. What I have to do in my world as my duty, as in the roles, I will do. But my energy is not going to be in, trying to make up and break up. If you remember Bhaj Govindam, one shloka came in that Shatrau Mitre Putre Bandhav Ma Kuru Yatnam Vigraha Sandhav. With the enemy or with the friend, Shatrau Mitre. Putre Bandhav, with the son or with the friends. Ma Kuru Yatnam Vigraha Sandhav. Don't try to make up and break up and patch up. Not required. Sarvasminnapi Pashyatmanam. See that they all are expressions of oneself. Sarvatra Utsrija Bheda Jnanam. You drop all this sense of raga and dvesha and turn the attention within. See, this is possible only when I am having sufficient clarity and detachment. Otherwise, what will happen? Our whole day goes in raga and dvesha with all types of relationships and work and agitation and all that. Then that 20 minutes when I want to sit and meditate, I am not this body, mind, intellect, I am pure consciousness. The mind will not abide. Because whole day I have lived strengthening the ego. For those 20 minutes, I want to drop the ego. How is that possible? But on the other hand, if I use the whole day with the seva bhav that I am here to serve and do it with detachment, whether people accept, not accept, reject, criticize, that is their lookout. Functionally, what I have to learn, I can learn. After that, drop it. Then this Purva Upadhi Gunan Tyajet will happen. That I will be able to drop. So one way to find out whether ego is very strong or it has become weak is to understand how easily I take things personally, how easily I feel hurt. Third is to understand if it is strong is how much the results of the action, how much my happiness depends on the results of the action. Phala asakti, that is another way to understand how strong is the ego. Because I want a certain result only. If it doesn't come, I am disturbed. So the lack of acceptance, ego thrives in insistence and resistance. The person who has a lot of insistence and resistance, ego is very strong. But a seeker whose ego has become weak, that person is not insistent. We learn to accept. So if earlier an unfavorable result created a disturbance for many hours or days, now it creates much lesser, and eventually it will not create. So that's the progression. Slowly one can understand how the ego becomes thinner. And one very important criteria here is also the doership, the sense of I. I am the karta. Without me, this cannot happen. I am indispensable. That has to be dropped. The stronger that ego is, how to drop that? Know very well that I am an instrument. With gratitude, work in the world that Bhagwan gave me this opportunity. I am his instrument. I am nobody. Without me also the world goes on. Without me also my family will go on. Without me also my company will go on. I am here to do my role. So this is not to escape from the role. This is not to become lazy, lethargic. No. This is to drop ego pressure. So much stress we carry in our head. How this Purva Upadhi Gunan Tyajet will happen? It won't happen. Because ego is very strong. If deeply I accept that I am not indispensable, that is very humbling. Because without me also the world has gone on for thousands of years. Without me also it will go on. Who am I to think that without me this will not happen? That is only my ego which is asserting itself. Is it not that which prevents us many times from doing sadhana also? No, Swamiji, I can't do meditation today. Why? Because I have to go to work. Without me, this will not happen. So why don't you wake up little early and do? But that I came late last night, no, so I have to go there. So everything else will not happen without me is the notion in the head. No, last night I had to go for socializing, this party I had to go for, and so what to do? And nowadays it has become online Zoom party. So now online I was there. So we were celebrating online and without me they will feel bad. So now everybody else is more important and I feel that without me they will feel bad. Functionally it may be true, they may feel bad. You can say sorry I couldn't attend, make it up in some other way, but why miss meditation for it? Because I think I am not indispensable. No, that's where it becomes. And the best part, the most humbling part of this whole thing is, after some time one realizes that actually it makes no difference to some people. We think it makes a difference, so we sacrifice everything and go there and attend and do things and compromise with our sadhana and everything else. But actually it makes no difference to people. You are one of the many who are attending it. And actually, if you make up later on, you are able to spend more quality time, because in that it is you are one-to-one. There in that party, you are with so many people. How much time can you spend? So anyway, these are all just simple examples I'm giving. But the idea here is ego has to become much lesser to be able to negate the false identification with the upadhi. And then that person comes to the state called Jivan Mukti. The example we already saw, the worm continuously thinking of the wasp becomes a wasp. So there, by thinking, the transformation is a physical transformation. The worm is actually becoming a wasp. Here it's a spiritual transformation, not of becoming, but of letting go. Letting go whatever I am not. That is what happens. And here it is not out of fear, here it is out of complete clarity and detachment. So now that is verse number 49.
Swamiji, one question. Is moksha and Jivan Mukti the same thing?
Same.
So when you attain moksha, that you just said is realizing that the entire universe is Satchit Anand. And you realize it in your lifetime.
Yeah.
And so you get moksha here and you act accordingly. Yeah. And then you're released from the cycle of birth, death and rebirth.
Yeah.
So actually it happens here, this chance. Yeah. There's nothing happening later.
No, later it can happen for some people who are, see, that is called Krama Mukti, where a Jivan, where a seeker who has walked the path very intensely, who has deep vairagya, who is contemplating steadily, but because of some prarabdha karma, the body has dropped now. The person died.
Yeah.
Without abiding in the self, the person died. Then what happens to that jiva? That jiva doesn't come back on the earth because the jiva doesn't have any vasanas for the earth. Then the jiva appropriately takes a body in the higher worlds and there gets the knowledge and gets mukti. So that is called krama mukti.
Okay.
But that is for the jivas who are not able to attain it here because of some past karma.
So then when they say you attain moksha, means you've realized it here and then you're just free from the cycle of birth, death and rebirth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is that chance. That's what they say. You have one chance in your
Correct.
human life. So
Correct.
you
Because we should not depend on krama mukti. We should do jivan mukti here and now. Because here is the manushya yoni and this bhuloka. This is karma bhumi. And manushya yoni is the karma yoni. So this is one chance. Again, when this human birth comes, no idea. And even if the human birth comes, then whether one will be having the right samskar and the exposure to the knowledge and then the opportunity to study, to study, meditate, all that is not very easy. So best is to utilize this chance to the best of the abilities. So Jivan Mukti, Atma Sakshatkar, Moksha, God realization, they all mean the same. The realization that infinite pure consciousness is my true nature, that is Jivan Mukti. And I am not the body, mind and intellect. That is called Jivan Mukti. Right. So then the 50th verse. This 50th verse is actually it is the symbolism of Ramayana. You see, 50th one it comes. Tirtva moharnavam hatva ragadveshadi rakshasan yogi shanti samayuktaha atma ramo virajate. So he says here, how will one get that Jivan Mukti? So Tirtva, crossing the ocean of Moha. Moha Arnavam Tirtva. Then Hatva Raga Dveshadi Rakshasan, by destroying the demons of Raga and Dvesha. Yogi Shanti Samayuktaha. This yogi attains Shanti. Atmaramo Virajate. And shines in one's own true nature as the Atma. Now, where did Ramayana come in this? This word Atma Rama indicates this whole thing. So, Tirtva Moha Arnavam is Bhagwan Ram crossing the ocean. Ragadveshadi Rakshasan means Ravan and all his asuras. Shanti is Sitaji. And this yogi is Bhagwan Ram. So this Bhagwan Ram crossing the ocean of this Moha, Moharnavam Tirtva. Moha means delusion. Delusion means to not to see the thing as it is, but to see it as opposite. That is called delusion. Moha is terrible, Like Sitaji also got deluded only. Ravan is actually a Rakshas who came in the form of a sannyasi. And that deer is Marich, who came in the form of the deer. Marich is that uncle of Ravan. And that Marich came as golden deer. And how strange it is, that till the Lord was there and he was telling Sitaji that this is not a deer, this is a Rakshas, because deer doesn't have golden skin. Till Sitaji's attention was on Bhagwan Ram, for 13 years, she did not have any problem. For that split moment, her mind went away from Bhagwan to the deer. And Bhagavan is telling her also that that deer is not a real deer, it is a Rakshas. Don't even desire to have that skin. But her mind went. Then we know the whole Ramayana started. So not to see something as it is, but to see it as opposite, that is called moha. In our life also it happens. This body is actually made up of dirt and filth, literally. And 5 elements: blood, bones, you know, flesh, muscle, all that is what this body is made up of. Individually, will we like any of these? Think about that. Suppose this whole body, you know what they do, that post-mortem. So the post-mortem is done and everything is separated, and they bring, this is the blood, this is the fat, this is the bones, this is the marrow. The entity is same, no? You just this put together is this Mr. So and so, but individually if it is brought, we will abhor it, saying, what is this? But when it is put together and there is life spark in this body, and then this body, oh, how much attachment to this body. Just because it is packaged well and the skin has a particular type of whatever, color and texture and softness and all that. So one feels, oh, this is so nice and this body and all. Okay, take a blade and cut it and then see what is inside. Nobody likes that. Immediately one has to put a band-aid and all that. So not to see the body as it is a tool for sadhana, but to see it as a means of pleasure. It may be in the initial levels of evolution, no doubt, but that is delusion. As one grows, one has to come out of the delusion. See, when one is a child, one plays with the toys thinking that they are real. You know, child's mind has a lot of imagination, and whatever the child imagines, that becomes real for the child, and the child derives pleasure and happiness from it. But the child finally outgrows that and then understands that that was all, there's no joy in that teddy bear at all. There's no joy in that toy car. Because one has outgrown, the delusion is ended. In the same way, the world of objects around us, they are toys. Body also is one toy. Great masters, they have risen above the body consciousness. So not to see the body as it is, to see it as only measure of means of pleasure. Or wealth. Wealth can give financial security. But more than that, what will it give? It can have some purchasing power, one can buy certain things, but look at the amount of destruction that people cause in their own lives and their own families. Amount of raga, dvesha, the fighting happening, and some violence also happens, and sometimes murder also happens. How many kings have been killed by their own children? Why? Because it gets into the head that if I have this, then I am powerful. It has a functional financial utility value. That's it. More than that, what does it have? Nothing more. It's paper, coins. What does it have? You know, human being is very strange. What human being does? I don't believe in God because God is a concept created by human being. So money also is a concept created by human being. Why are you running behind money? Why do you believe in that? And God is a concept created by human being, and look at the violence in the name of religion and God and all this. So I don't believe. So look at the violence created in the name of money. Why are we running behind money then? This is called moha, where selectively we will apply some things where we conveniently want to, and where we don't want to apply, we won't even look at it. How much destruction money has caused, and how many people have died, and generations after generations, and wars have been fought for money and all that. So everything has its own value. To see it as it is, that is called jnana. To see it opposite, that is called moha. And this, you know, the example here is moha arnava. It is like an ocean of moha. It's not a small pool or a lake which one can easily cross. It's an ocean of moha. If one sits to write down what all delusions one has, it will be one unending list. Delusion about people. What a delusion we have that we can control people's lives. How much parents and elders want to control the lives of the younger ones and the children, want to live their dreams through the children, but children have come with their own baggage. And how much we think about all that is delusion in our head. So whether it is relationship, whether it is money, whether it is body, whether it is fame, subtlest obstacle comes is fame. Everybody wants to become famous. But in what way? Yena kena prakarena prasiddha purusho bhave. Anyhow, do anything, become famous. Nowadays, to become famous, you just need one controversy. That's it. You are all over the place. So, name, fame, about all that, how much delusion one has. If all those delusions are there, the ego is so strong. See, this moha and raga and dvesha, they both are something which sustain the ego very deeply. If I'm not ready to drop my moha, I cannot realize the truth. If I'm not ready to drop raga and dvesha, I cannot realize the truth. So just like this bridge is made, across the ocean, the bridge is made. Now that bridge is very beautiful, symbolic. Every monkey takes the stone and writes the name Ram on that and puts it in the ocean, and that will float. And that way the bridge was built. So what is the bridge that is built across moha? To cross the delusion and cross the ocean of delusion, what is the bridge that one has to make? One has to make the bridge of bhakti and purushartha. If this bhakti and purushartha are there, then this ocean of delusion can be crossed. So the jiva has to do that. Every seeker has to cross this ocean of delusion, not by fighting with the delusion, but by building a bridge. When bhakti will come, no, asakti will go, moha will go. And the strange part is that bhakti only one doesn't want to do. One wants to live in some abstract thing of some consciousness, some nameless, formless. No doubt consciousness from the Jnana Marg is the highest. But what is my understanding of consciousness? Many people use the understanding of consciousness to reject the concept of, to reject Bhagavan only. There is no Bhagavan, there is only consciousness. That is all wrong notions. Consciousness only appears as Bhagavan and makes this whole universe. Apart from that, there is nothing else. But if I don't use bhakti, how will I go across? This ocean of delusion cannot be crossed without bhakti. So Bhagavan makes that bridge. So a seeker, a yogi, uses bhakti, uses purushartha, and makes the bridge, crosses the ocean and goes that side. Then raga and dvesha will come. That Ravan is that 10-headed monster. So our senses, the 10 senses we have, they create a lot of raga and dvesha. Likes and dislikes, attachments and aversions. And through that the ego thrives. Now Bhagavan is born to Dashrath and he kills Dashamukha. So a seeker, when the seeker learns to control the senses, one who has all the 10 senses in control, that person is called Dashrath. To that person the Lord is born. So Dashrath and Dashamukh. So that seeker destroys the raga and dvesha created by this 10 senses, Ravan. So Tirtva Moharnavam Hatva Raga Dveshadi Rakshasan Yogi Shanti Samayuktaha. When the raga and dvesha is destroyed, now how the Lord destroys raga and dvesha? That Ravan, he hits in the Nabhi. The source of raga and dvesha is that ahankar, ego, destroyed. Then what happens? Yogi Shanti Samayuktaha. Ram and Sita are united. Atmaramo Virajate. Atmarama means the Ram Rajya. So Bhagavan returns with Sita ji to Ayodhya and Rama Rajya is established. Virajate means, one meaning of Viraja is to ascend. to sit, to ascend and sit there on the throne. So that is in Ramayana, but here it is that the jiva realizes one's true nature as pure consciousness, absolute bliss. So this is the symbolic aspect of Ramayana brought out through this verse and through the journey. Now Gurudev has had given a nice talk on this Atmabodha. So this shloka, there is a very nice symbolism of the entire Ramayana that Gurudev has given. So I will send that link on the WhatsApp. Whenever you have time, you can listen. It's a little long. It's about 30 minutes or so, but it's a very beautiful symbolism. Please do watch that. So for today, I will stop here. Anything you want to ask, share, you are welcome.
Swamiji, how does, again, what we're going through this COVID-19 and these cyclones, one after the other, so many things. How does one have to deal with it? Finally, we're all human, you know. It's not easy to say, like, you know, to deal with it properly and, you know, take it in our stride. Somewhere we do react to this, like what is going on in the world.
True, there's no doubt that the mind...
And the pain and suffering you see people going through, you know.
True, so that's where, so there is no doubt the mind does react sometimes and one does get disturbed. But what can be done? First of all, I will have to accept that this is happening. I can't resist the fact. This is happening now. If I know certain reasons for it, which is happening, then I can try to work on those. And as a whole humanity, one has to come together to work on some of those aspects to see that we don't come into that situation once again. And second is, when I am seeing the suffering of people around, then I must also see how much I am able to serve in whatever way I can, because that's a proactive response that I need to give. So acceptance and surrender is first aspect. Second aspect is collectively to come together and see if we are able to learn some things from this and make appropriate changes. Third is I should be able to proactively serve in whatever capacity I can, help the people who are suffering in any way possible. That's the best way to engage oneself at this moment. Ruchiraji, you had unmuted.
I was only asking that I didn't understand how the worm becomes a wasp, because it's physically not possible, but the worm starts thinking it's a wasp.
No, that physically happens. The worm keeps on out of fear of, you know, expecting the sting again. The worm is actually thinking of the wasp, and the worm becomes the wasp.
Can you give another example, Swamiji, for this? Which is, I mean, I can't relate to this. It's like saying a bird becomes a fish.
No, he becomes physically a wasp.
Yeah.
He looks like a wasp.
No, the worm becomes a wasp. That's why I said worm and wasp are two different species. But continuously, out of fear, when the worm goes on thinking, it will become a wasp.
To look in his physical form also.
Yeah, yeah. Not only form, in the qualities also.
Oh, this is very, very extraordinary.
Like that. No, there are many examples for that. No, in our life, we can do that. No, whatever we continuously think about, those all qualities will come into us. Even physically, one will start looking like that.
You start looking like your spouse.
You may.
After so many years of marriage.
Then you may, yeah. The power of the mind is that much.
Thank you, Swamiji.
The chat, one question has come. Sometimes what one generation thinks is disrespectful, the younger generation does not. How does the older generation come to terms? One has to find out why they don't think it is disrespectful. What is the reasoning? What is their logic behind it? And if that logic is acceptable, then that it becomes easy to understand. If that is not acceptable, then one has to learn to understand if that is what their value system is. One can tell, one can try to explain, but if they don't want to change that value system, then That is up to them now. What can one do? That's why I said they have brought their karma. And at their time, in their way, they will understand. We can try to, we can try to explain, we can try to create a certain conducive environment for them to understand. But we can't insist that they will follow our value system. So what we explain is our conditioning. Yes. If we are able to understand from where they are coming, then maybe there is a meeting point in between. And maybe there is something new that one can learn from the younger generation. But if their value system is completely wrong and they don't want to accept our value system, then we can't do anything much. They have to learn by themselves.
Swamiji,
Yeah.
Ego is generally described as a superiority complex. Somebody having this. Then ego, we also know as inferiority complex is also ego. Fear is also ego. Now, there are many forms of ego. So can you sum it up for us in one definition or in one understanding? So I know that I'm going through an ego in whatever form it is. How do I think of ego?
The psychological sense of identity is called ego. Broadest definition is psychological sense of identity is my ego. Now that identity will take so many forms. So those forms are classified into these 6, no? Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, 6. Then Bhaya, Raga, Dvesha, 9. These 9 modifications are modifications of the ego. Now based on these 9 only the superiority and inferiority etc. will come. So if I achieve a certain success, then I will feel I am superior. Because that's my attachment to success. My raga, which makes me feel I am greater only when I achieve this success. And now that I have got it, now I am great. So the superiority is born from raga. Inferiority is born from some dvesha. I didn't get what I want, or I don't feel strong enough. I feel I am very weak. I am very low. So the 6 vikaras plus bhaya plus raga and dvesha, 9. And if you want to add one more, shoka, 10. So these 10 are the various facets of the ego through which I am defining my identity. So the psychological sense of identity is this ego, which comes from any of these 10. And that's why if I want to drop that ego, I have to weaken these 10. Then I can drop the psychological sense of identity. This identity I don't have in the dream state. So my ego of dream is different from waking ego. And both these egos are not in the deep sleep state. So the ego is defined like that. The psychological sense of identity that I hold about myself.
So what is my behavior supposed to be without ego? How is it? I can't visualize that.
Think more about the actor and the role example.
Okay.
The actor is playing his role, but really the actor is not the role. Deep down the actor knows that. So for that role, so as a father, as a friend, as an employer, whatever, I have different roles to play. In that role, I should be dharmic. I should learn to act functionally, not take it very personally, psychologically, etc. Knowing very well this is not me.
So
And
same
so,
like,
so from
sorry.
that standpoint, whatever I am doing, if I have to correct somebody, I may correct. If I have to encourage somebody, I will encourage. But personally, I don't think that, I don't allow it to affect me. Because I know that this is only a role I am playing.
So separating the big guy from the small eye is what? And looking at the small eye as a third person instead of the first person.
Correct. That's the right.
That's very difficult to fathom, Swamiji.
No, it is difficult to fathom. There is no doubt. That's why these analogies will help. I have to look at myself from a third person standpoint, objectively, and just play a role. That's why the actor and that role example is the best.
Best.
The actor and the role, the more one thinks about it, you see, in some ways it helps in our Chinmaya Yuva Kendra, when I was in the youth wing of the Chinmaya mission, I used to play different roles, act out at, we had Ramayana, so I used to play the role of Bharat. So now playing that role, I understood very easily that, you have to get fully into that role. And my role was Bharat as a, Vanvasi form of Bharat, where Bharat goes to bring Ram back.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of crying also in that. And then finally that Paduka one has to take and then come back. So then before the role starts, I have to get into the costume and all that, and then sit and come into that whole mindset that what does Bharat feel, and then go on the stage and then do the whole acting and all that and come back. And at the end of the play, you remove everything and you are no more Bharat. So this getting into the role, coming out of it, getting into coming out of it, then one started understanding in real life also, okay, this is one more role. Now I am a teacher right now. So this is a role I am playing, but I am not this. When the class is over, I am no more a teacher. It's finished. Then who am I? Satchidananda Swarup Atma. So now this coming, going in the role and out of the role, then one starts understanding. So either one can actually take up a role in a play to understand, or think more about the example of the actor and the role.
Okay.
Yeah.
Swamiji, just listening to you, we feel we have come home closer.
That is wonderful. See, the power of this knowledge is also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Right.
yeah. We feel we are all there. Just touch and go.
Actually,
Only
that's the fact.
Only we need to hear you more often, to remind us.
The fact is that
You take us there, You really take us. It's so uplifting.
actually it is compositions of Adi Shankaracharya ji and all these great masters. Their thoughts are like that. The more we reflect on it, our mind gets so beautifully uplifted. And the truth is that we are that already. There's no doubt in that. It's just that we, as you said, we have to remind more and more to
Yes.
come to that. Yeah. All right. Wish you all safety from the cyclone. Be safe. Be
Thank
healthy.
you. We wish you
Thank you,
the
Swamiji. Hari Om.
same.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari
Thank
Om.
you.
Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.